Texas mood tracker time. What is the mood? Now, I have some very, very close personal contacts at Texas. And so when it's time to do the Texas mood tracker, I don't have to do anything more than text them. And so I texted one of my good close contacts at Texas today. We'll call him Stanley. And I said, hey Stan, what would you say is the mood at Texas right now? He said, cautiously beyond optimistic. That was all. That was enough. That was good for me. Then he kept going, and he said, we are walking a tightrope to Babylon, but it's a long fall to the pit of despair. So that's how they feel in Austin right now. I've heard some people say something that I want to address, and they have said, at any mention of optimism for Texas, they've said, well, you know what history says. What does history say? Go on, tell me. Thrall me. They say, well, history says Texas is an underachiever. History says Texas is going to choke. History, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing about history at Texas. It's 2 years old because history is only as relevant as your current coaching staff. What Charlie Strong did there has no bearing on what they can or can't do this year. What any of their past coaches have done, Tom Herman, has no bearing on what this year's team can or can't do. So history is 2021 and 2022. And over that span, I saw them go from 5-7 to 8-5, and I saw them push Bama to within 1 point at home, and then I get to see them this year. So history, I don't know what it says to me, other than they've gotten better over the past 24 months. They've gotten better. That's what history says. Nothing about history tells me that they can or can't win the Big 12 this year. So I get the cautious optimism. I would feel the same way. I don't know about this whole long fall to the pit of despair from Babylon, but if they say that's the mood, that's the mood. They are 19th in returning production. Both lines of scrimmage have improved, I would say, significantly, and that's been a multi-year process, especially on the offensive line. They got one of the best wide receiver rooms in the country. Quarterback room is in excellent shape, especially since they kept Malik Murphy. You just saw on the screen there, they are the odds-on favorite to win the Big 12 this year, where I have to hit the pause button. Because just as sure as I touched on this 90 seconds ago, I am going to again hear somebody say, oh, they're the favorite, huh? Well, you know what history says about Texas being the favorite. We just went over this, didn't we? No, I'm not going to recycle old thoughts. We just went over this. They're the favorite this year, and they should be the favorite this year because Texas looks like the best team preseason in the Big 12, and that's how odds work. So, week 2 is going to be a pivot point for them. Again, they get to load up on food in week 1. Actually, JT Daniels is going to serve food to Texas in week 1 because JT Daniels is the quarterback at Rice. And so Rice and JT Daniels are on the plate in week 1. I expect Texas to win. Week 2, they're at Alabama. Just like last year, different venue, but just like last year, that's going to be the game everyone circles. Unlike last year, the point spread will not be 3 touchdowns. And unlike last year, people will look at Texas as having the quarterback advantage in the game and the wide receiver room advantage in the game. I look at it that way right now. That will be one that will not be for the faint of heart, and that will be one that I am pretty well sure we will be at in week 2. Not to just give away the tour destinations this year before we even name the tour, but yeah, you'd be hard-pressed to find us anywhere other than Tuscaloosa, Alabama in week 2. Now, Bama will still be a point spread favorite. Single digits, I expect, but a point spread favorite. And if they win, especially a close competitive game, has no bearing on Texas the rest of the year. It's a non-conference game. You get to feel out where they are. But, and this is a big one, immunity. Do you know what the world is like if Texas beats Alabama in week 2? And if you're less than 20 years old, your answer is no. You've never experienced real Texas hype. You've experienced some cotton candy, Red Bull, sugar high Texas hype, some hollow Texas hype. But you have never experienced full-blown national championship contender for the first time in a long time, Texas hype. You've heard about Texas fight. It pales in comparison to Texas hype. If Texas were to beat Bama in week 2, first off, I can pretty much guarantee you they'd be tied with Wyoming at halftime the next week before they eventually pulled away. But if Texas beats Bama in week 2, you think you've seen hype, you have never seen hype. If they go in there and Quinn Ewers outduels whomst ever Alabama throws out there, if they carve up that Bama secondary, which I think will be one of the best in the country, if they take Bama down in their own building, and then they enter Big 12 conference play undefeated, oh, the hype. It would be a beautiful thing selfishly for us. Oh, the hype. Now, Jesse did come to me today, and unlike Oklahoma State, which somehow avoids like every good team in the Big 12, Texas, in terms of preseason odds now, Texas plays the number 2 team, the number 3 team, the number 4 team, the number 5 team, and the number 6 team, because they're the number 1 team in terms of odds. And 3 of those 4 games are in November. They go K-State, at TCU, and they got Texas Tech at the end. And by the way, the team that's not one of the top 6 is at Iowa State, and that's the second leg of a back-to-back road stretch. It's not an easy schedule. I know some of you love to dunk on the Big 12 strength of schedule. We spoke about this last year, and if I have to have this conversation with you again, I'll do it closer to the season. This is not an easy schedule, but Texas is a very good team, or at least I think they'll be. I pause because I myself, even though we haven't gone off the air yet, I'm just imagining the world where Texas 34, Bama 30. I'm imagining what that world would be like. I can't. I really can't. I have experienced Texas hype, but that was several years ago. Really, in this era, and the way media operates today, and the way the social elements have been infused today, we really haven't seen legitimate Texas championship contention in this very new media era. So when it happens, I did not say if, when it happens, this year or in the coming years, it's like that scene in Deep Impact. The asteroid hits several miles out into the Atlantic, and then there's just this wave that's like 500 feet high that just engulfs Manhattan. I would even suggest that Texas hype would be a little bit larger than that. Whenever it finally hits, you won't have to ask, Mom, is this Texas hype? You'll just, because you'll drown in it. That's what Texas hype's really like.